To the world, Alexander Cole was an untouchable billionaire who feared nothing, not failure, not love, not God. But when a black woman looked him in the eye and said no, the man who controlled everything felt something he never had before: uncertainty. Welcome back, my amazing family and friends. If you're all set to enjoy this story, make sure to subscribe and tell me in the comments where you're watching from, because tomorrow, I'll be dropping another exciting story you're sure to love. Now, let's jump right in. A digital chime broke the silence. His assistant's voice, polite and practiced, crackled through the intercom. "Morning briefing ready, Mr. Cole. There's a note about the opposition to the riverfront renewal." "Opposition?" he said, turning from the window. His voice carried the calm of someone accustomed to winning. "Community activists. A Dr. Maya Okafor's leading it. She's gaining press. You might want to review." "I don't review noise," he interrupted, reaching for his coffee. "Schedule the next investor call. We'll handle it." His reflection met his gaze in the glass, a face of composure, success, distance. The kind of man who feared nothing because he'd long ago learned not to feel anything. Yet, as he returned to his desk, the name lingered in his mind: Maya Okafor. Something about it hummed like static beneath his skin. Outside, the city began to stir: taxis, sirens, the pulse of ambition. Cole adjusted his cufflinks, sealing himself back inside his armor. Across the city, life sounded different. Dr. Maya Okafor's voice carried over the hum of a crowded community center in the Bronx. Folding chairs scraped, children darted between legs, and the air smelled faintly of coffee and determination. She stood before a mural of brown faces, some smiling, some gone, her hand raised mid-sentence. "They call it revitalization," she said, her tone steady but sharp. "But whose lives are they reviving? When families are pushed out, when homes become condos, when memory is bulldozed, that's not progress. That's erased." Applause rippled through the room. Maya exhaled slowly, eyes sweeping the crowd, familiar faces worn by years of struggle. She smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. When the meeting broke, she slipped into her small office at the back, where the noise dimmed. On her desk sat a photograph of a young man, her brother, taken at 17, grinning in front of a half-finished building site. He'd died there. A collapsed scaffold, ignored safety reports, corporate denial. His name had never appeared in the news, but she carried it in every word she spoke. Her fingers brushed the photo's cracked edge. "They'll listen this time," she murmured. That night, the city pulsed between them, two worlds unaware of the orbit forming. Cole's driver maneuvered the sleek black car through midtown traffic. He scrolled absently through headlines until one caught his eye. Dr. Maya Okafor to confront billionaire Alexander Cole at Urban Renewal Summit. He stared at the headline for a moment, expression unreadable. Then, a faint smirk. "So she wants a stage," he said quietly. "Let her have it." Miles away, on the last train home, Maya leaned her head against the window as steel screeched on track. Her phone buzzed, the same summit invitation glowing on the screen. She read the name twice, a flicker of satisfaction sparking in her chest. "Alexander Cole," she whispered. "Let's see what you fear." The train roared into the dark, lights flickering across her face. Above her, the billionaire's penthouse glowed against the night, a tower of glass suspended in the sky. Below him, the city pulsed with the lives his empire had displaced. Two figures looked out at the same skyline from opposite ends of power, unaware that by morning, their worlds would begin to crack. The glass would not stay unbroken for long. The ballroom shimmered with light, chandeliers glinting like gold veins, crystal glasses catching flashes of camera bulbs. The Urban Renewal Summit was a spectacle of progress: developers, politicians, philanthropists, all dressed in moral ambition. At the center of it, Alexander Cole stood like an anchor in a storm of admiration. Every handshake reaffirmed his place in the hierarchy of power. He didn't hear the praise anymore. Compliments slid off him like rain on glass. What he noticed and what he waited for was her. Then she appeared. Dr. Maya Okafor walked across the marble floor in a deep navy dress, her hair a halo of coils and confidence. She wasn't adorned with jewelry or status. Her authority came from something quieter: conviction. Conversations faltered as she passed, like air changing pressure. Cole's eyes followed her, curious. She didn't glance his way. The debate began under a canopy of polite tension. A moderator's voice carried across the stage. Tonight, we explore what revitalization truly means for our communities. Joining us, Mr. Alexander Cole, founder of Cole Global Developments, and Dr. Maya Okafor, urban sociologist and community advocate. Applause. Cole's smile was effortless, professional. Maya's expression was calm, almost serene, the kind of stillness that comes before thunder. Mr. Cole, the moderator began, your company has spearheaded projects that transformed entire neighborhoods. How do you respond to criticism that these efforts displace the very people they claim to help? Cole leaned forward slightly, the lights sharpening the edges of his face. Change is never painless, he said smoothly. But revitalization is about opportunity. We create jobs, improve infrastructure, and increase property values. That's growth, real, measurable progress. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the audience. Then Maya spoke. With respect, she said, voice low but resonant, your definition of progress depends on who's standing on the foundation and who's buried beneath it. The room shifted. Her words landed not as rhetoric, but as truth cutting through gloss. She didn't look at him. She looked through him. Cole's composure faltered barely, but enough. He felt something unexpected, heat. Not anger, but recognition. Maya continued, each sentence deliberate, unflinching. You talk about opportunity as if it's universal. But tell me, when a grandmother loses her home because she can't afford your improved rent, where's her opportunity? When her grandson dies on one of your uninspected sites, where's his? The audience froze. Cole's pen paused mid-tap. His throat tightened. She was talking about someone specific. I've read your reports, she said, eyes finally locking onto his. They're immaculate. Impressive. But the numbers don't show the grief you leave behind. A beat of silence. Cameras clicked like heartbeats. Cole replied carefully, voice thinner than before. You make compelling points, Dr. Okafor, but change requires compromise. We can't fix everything through emotion. Maya tilted her head slightly. Emotion isn't the problem, Mr. Cole. Indifference is. The crowd exhaled a mix of discomfort and awe. The moderator hurried to diffuse the tension, shifting to audience questions, but the air remained charged. Afterward, the corridor hummed with whispered analysis. Investors avoided Cole's gaze, journalists followed Maya like bees to a storm. Cole stood near the exit, his mask of calm fixed in place. Yet inside, something trembled, a splinter forming in the glass fortress he'd lived behind. He watched her speak to a reporter, gesturing with her hands, eyes bright with conviction. The energy around her was electric, raw and alive. For a moment, he saw not an adversary, but a force he couldn't define. She glanced his way briefly, almost accidentally, but the look pierced him. Not flirtation, not hostility. Just truth, naked and unbending. And for the first time in years, Alexander Cole felt fear. Not of loss or scandal, but of being seen. That night, back in his penthouse, he replayed her words like a melody he couldn't forget. Emotion isn't the problem. Indifference is. He poured himself a drink and stood again before the glass wall, the city glowing beneath him. His reflection stared back, powerful, successful, hollow. Behind him, lightning flashed, illuminating the skyline. Across the city, Maya sat alone at her kitchen table, notes and articles spread before her. She wasn't thinking about victory. She was thinking about his eyes, the flicker she'd seen behind his calm. She wrote in her notebook. Power listens only when it's forced to feel. Then she closed it, unaware that tonight, she'd already done exactly that. The morning headlines hit like shrapnel. Billionaire Alexander Cole rattled by Dr. Maya Okafor at Urban Renewal Summit. The woman who stared down power and won. Cole read the words over black coffee, the bitterness of both indistinguishable. The photo beneath the headline captured him mid-blink, the one unguarded second during her speech. It looked like hesitation. Worse, it looked human. He set the tablet down, jaw locked. Across the table, his COO, David Lin, cleared his throat carefully. She's trending. You're getting crucified online. The hero meets the corporate villain in the usual arc. Don't exaggerate, Cole said, voice flat. I'm not. Lin slid his phone across the table. On the screen. Clips of the debate, cut into viral sound bites. Maya's words, indifference is the problem, looped over images of his skyscrapers. The internet had turned her defiance into a rallying cry. She's good, Lin said. You might want to consider a gesture. Donation, partnership, photo op. No, Cole snapped. No performance. Let it burn out. But it didn't. By noon, reporters camped outside the building. By night, shareholders were calling for statements. For the first time, the empire he built on composure began to shake not from scandal, but from scrutiny. Cole poured himself another drink that evening, the city lights bleeding through the glass walls. The view, once triumphant, now looked like a cage. Her voice replayed in his mind, clear as the night he met it, emotion isn't the problem. Indifference is. He tried to work, to bury her under spreadsheets and schedules, but her words clung like smoke. Across the city, Maya wasn't celebrating. Her inbox overflowed with interview requests, invitations, praise. She ignored most of them. Fame had never been her goal, truth had. Yet the attention felt like a storm she hadn't meant to summon. In the community center, volunteers cheered her. You killed it, Maya. Finally, someone said it to his face. She smiled, but the sound of their applause hollowed inside her. The victory felt too clean. The man she'd faced wasn't what she expected. Yes, he was powerful, but there'd been something else in his eyes. A flicker of, what? Doubt. Shame. She didn't want to feel curiosity. She didn't want anything from him. Later, in her small apartment, she tried to write her next op-ed, The Cost of Progress, Communities in the Crossfire. But every paragraph fell flat. Her brother's photo looked at her from the bookshelf. Don't soften, she whispered to herself. Not now. Still, she couldn't silence the unease. Days passed. Cole attended board meetings, delivered speeches, signed contracts, all with robotic precision. But when he looked at his reflection in elevator glass, he barely recognized the man staring back. In a rare moment of solitude, he asked his driver to take the long route home. The car passed through neighborhoods his company had revitalized. Gleaming towers rose where old homes once stood. But beneath the neon, he caught glimpses of the displaced families huddled in shelters, murals fading behind construction walls. He'd never really looked before. At a stoplight, a child's laughter broke through the noise, high, free, echoing from a playground his firm had built. He almost smiled. Then he noticed the razor wire surrounding it. Something inside him twisted. Maya, meanwhile, found herself summoned to a city hearing about the same redevelopment project. Her proposal to halt construction until safety and equity reviews were done was gaining traction. As she waited in the lobby before her presentation, a familiar voice cut through the buzz. Dr. Okafor. She turned. Alexander Cole stood a few feet away, immaculate in his tailored suit, his expression unreadable. For a heartbeat, they just stared, two storms colliding in silence. She spoke first. "I didn't expect to see you here." "I own the building," he said simply. Then, after a pause, "You made an impression." "Good," she replied. "Maybe you'll start listening." He studied her, the calm mask slipping just enough to reveal something human beneath. "I've been listening," he said quietly. "That's the problem." She frowned, unsure what to make of it. "Listening isn't the same as changing, Mr. Cole." "I know," he said. "But it's how change starts." Before she could answer, the clerk called her name. She brushed past him, spine straight, heartbeat louder than her heels. But as she walked into the chamber, she felt his gaze follow her, not predatory, not defensive, but searching. That night, both lay awake, she in her small apartment, he in his glass tower, each haunted by the same contradiction. They were supposed to be enemies. So why did it feel like they were mirrors? The storm came without warning. Wind howled down the Hudson, rain slamming against glass towers like thrown stones. Across the city, power grids failed, streets flooded, and the riverfront renewal site, the same project at the heart of their feud, became a disaster zone. Alexander Cole was on his way home when the call came through. "Sir," David Lynn said through static, "the storms hit the riverfront. One of the cranes collapsed. Emergency services are there now. You need to see this." Cole didn't hesitate. "Get the car." By the time he arrived, chaos ruled. Sirens painted the sky in red and blue. Mud, water, and concrete blurred into one color. Workers shouted, emergency lights flickered, and the smell of ozone and fear hung heavy in the air. Then, through the blur, he saw her. Maya stood knee-deep in water, directing volunteers with a flashlight in hand, soaked but steady. Her hair clung to her face, her voice cut through the storm like command made flesh. "Check the eastern scaffolding. Watch the wires. Don't move the injured until medics arrive." Cole stared for a moment at this woman who'd publicly humiliated him, now leading his workers through wreckage he'd caused. He stepped into the mud, rain slicing his suit to ruin. "Maya." She turned sharply, eyes narrowing in disbelief. "What are you doing here?" "My site. My responsibility." "You mean your liability," she shot back. "People are hurt, Cole. You don't belong here unless you're ready to get your hands dirty." Without answering, he rolled up his sleeves. "Show me where." Hours blurred into chaos. Together, they helped dig out trapped workers, coordinate with medics, and guide the last evacuation boats through knee-deep water. Cole's polished composure cracked with every passing minute, mud on his cuffs, fear in his chest. When one of his engineers cried over a crushed scaffold, Cole knelt beside him, voice shaking. "We'll rebuild. And this time, we'll get it right." Maya overheard. For the first time, she saw not the billionaire but the man. When the rain finally broke, the air smelled of metal and wet earth. City officials closed the bridge, leaving them stranded on site. A nearby relief tent glowed dimly with generator light, their only shelter until morning. Maya ducked inside first, wringing rain from her hair. Cole followed, exhaustion in every step. She eyed him warily. "You could have left hours ago." "I tried," he said. "Roads are flooded." "Figures." She sank into a folding chair. "Guess that makes us stuck." He gave a tired half-smile. "You sound thrilled." "Thrilled? No. Curious, maybe." "Why are you really here, Mr. Cole? You don't do damage control in person." He hesitated. "I thought I didn't." But tonight, he looked at his mud-streaked hands. It felt wrong to stay clean. For a long moment, silence filled the tent, not awkward, but fragile. Outside, thunder grumbled like distant applause. Maya rubbed her temples. "You built these towers, you know." These were your dream. They were supposed to be, he said. Now all I see are the cracks. Then maybe you're finally looking, she murmured. Their eyes met, neither soft nor sharp, but real. In the dim light, the space between them felt charged, dangerous in its honesty. Later, they sat side by side on crates, sharing a thermos of coffee meant for volunteers. Maya laughed quietly. You ever even been in a place like this before? Cole shook his head. Not since I stopped being poor. She arched a brow. So you remember? I remember everything. Especially what I had to forget to get here. Her expression softened. That's the thing about forgetting, she said. It doesn't erase the cost. It just delays the bill. He looked at her and something shifted. The woman who'd undone him in front of cameras was now his anchor in the wreckage. And for the first time, he didn't want to win. He wanted to understand. Sometime before dawn, the storm eased. The tent buzzed faintly with generator hum. Maya dozed against a crate, rain still whispering on the canvas above. Cole sat awake beside her, watching the faint rise and fall of her breath. He didn't know what to call what he felt: guilt, admiration, longing, only that it was dangerous and alive. When she stirred, he turned away quickly. You don't have to keep pretending, she said softly. He looked back at her, confused. Pretending what? That you don't feel anything. He didn't answer. He didn't need to. His silence said enough. Outside, dawn broke over the flooded city, painting the ruins in gold. Two silhouettes emerged from the tent, one in a torn suit, the other in mud-streaked boots, walking side by side through the aftermath of everything they'd once opposed. For the first time, they weren't adversaries. They were witnesses. The morning after the storm smelled of iron and ash. The riverfront was a skeleton of steel and ruined, twisted cranes, cracked pavement, broken promises. Volunteers waded through debris while helicopters thumped overhead. Alexander Cole stood at the edge of what used to be the construction zone, sleeves rolled up, tie gone. His usual perfection was stripped away. Mud crusted his shoes, his hair matted with sweat. For the first time in his career, there were no cameras, no investors, no safety net of control, just aftermath. He spotted Maya across the site, clipboard in hand, speaking with rescue coordinators. Her face was grim but composed, voice steady even as exhaustion shadowed her eyes. She moved like someone used to surviving aftermaths. He approached quietly. Dr. Okafor. She turned. Mr. Cole. They regarded each other for a long moment, the formality of their words at odds with the shared fatigue in their faces. You stayed, she said. So did you. I don't leave until people are safe. He nodded. Neither do I. She gave him a look. You didn't used to. He didn't argue. By afternoon, city officials gathered in the relief tent for an emergency review. Maya presented her findings: infrastructure negligence, budget shortcuts, and oversight failures, all stamped with Cole Global Developments. Cole listened, arms folded, as she laid out facts he couldn't refute. Every line of her report was a mirror held to his empire. When she finished, silence followed. Finally, he spoke. The reports were falsified. Her eyes narrowed. By who? He exhaled, gaze hardening. By someone I trusted. Your COO. He didn't answer, which was answer enough. The city inspector looked between them. If that's true, Mr. Cole, this could mean a criminal investigation. Cole's jaw flexed. I'll cooperate fully. Every file, every document. Maya stared at him, surprised. The man she'd expected to deflect was instead dismantling his own defense. After the meeting, she caught up with him outside. That was unexpected. Truth doesn't vanish because we ignore it, he said quietly. I've done enough of that. Her voice softened. You're risking a lot. So are you, he said, meeting her gaze. But I think you've been doing that your whole life. Later that evening, the temporary shelter buzzed with low conversation and portable lights. The storm's victims shared blankets and soup, strangers bound by disaster. Maya moved between them, checking on families, soothing children, her hands steady but eyes heavy. Cole watched her from a distance, not as a CEO, but as a man seeing compassion he couldn't fabricate. Something in her grounded him. When she finally sat down near the heaters, he joined her without asking. "Why do you do this?" he asked quietly. She smiled faintly. "Because someone has to." "That's not an answer." She looked into the flames dancing inside the heater. "My brother died on one of your company's sites. Safety violations. They called it an accident. But it wasn't. He was 17. His name was Caleb." Cole froze. "I remember that case." Her head snapped toward him. "You remember?" "Yes." His voice was low. "It was my first major project. We were behind schedule. The contractor ignored protocols. I signed the final clearance without reviewing the report. I didn't even know his name until after." Her eyes filled, fury and grief mixing like fire and water. "You signed his death, and you remember it like paperwork." "I remember it like a scar," he said, voice cracking. "It's the reason I stopped going to sites. I couldn't look at what I'd built without seeing what I destroyed." Silence. Only the hiss of rain on metal. Maya turned away, arms folded tight. "You think guilt redeems you?" "No," he said. "But maybe doing something about it does." She looked at him, then truly looked, and for the first time saw remorse not as performance but as truth. Beneath the billionaire's steel was a man broken long before she arrived. As night deepened, they worked side by side organizing supplies. The tension between them shifted, not softened, but clarified. Maya said, almost to herself, "My brother used to say the world doesn't need saviors. It needs people who stay." Cole glanced at her. "Then maybe that's what I'm trying to become." "You're late," she said. "I know." When the generators finally cut out, darkness filled the tent. Neither moved. The air hummed with unsaid things, grief, guilt, something fragile and almost human. For the first time, neither of them felt alone in it. Outside, the river rose again, carrying away pieces of what they'd both lost, a boy, a dream, an illusion. Inside, two people who'd been enemies began to recognize something far more dangerous than hatred between them, understanding. The floodwaters receded slowly, leaving behind silence the kind that follows survival. The air was heavy with dampness and the faint scent of diesel. The city had returned to its rhythm, but at the riverfront, time moved slower. Cole stayed. Against his board's protests, he set up a temporary base near the recovery site. No suits, no press, no entourage, just the workers, volunteers, and Maya. For days, they rebuilt in quiet tandem. He funded the cleanup crews himself, and she oversaw safety and logistics. They barely spoke at first, yet everything in their movements was communicating an unspoken rhythm born from exhaustion and respect. On the third day, she brought him coffee, the cheap kind, brewed in a paper cup. He looked up from his notes, startled. "Is this peace offering or test?" "Both," she said. "You looked like you needed something real." He smiled faintly. "I wouldn't know where to find that anymore." "Then start with the coffee." She turned to leave, but he called after her. "Maya, thank you." Her name in his voice was strangely softer than she expected. It stayed with her longer than the coffee's warmth. That evening, the two found themselves alone in the makeshift office. Rain pattered lightly against the roof. Cole sat at a folding table covered in paperwork, inspection reports, budget revisions, new safety mandates, the architecture of accountability. Maya stood at the window, watching the distant glow of the city skyline. "You're rewriting the whole system," she said. "I'm fixing what I broke." She turned toward him. "That's more than most people do." He met her eyes. "You gave me the reason." She hesitated, heart tightening. "Don't make me your redemption arc, Cole." "I'm not," he said quietly. "I'm just saying I wouldn't have seen any of this without you." The words landed heavy. Not flattery confession. Maya sat across from him, elbows on the table. "You ever think about walking away? From all of it?" "Every day," he said. "But fear's a good motivator." "I thought you feared nothing." His gaze held hers. "I thought so too." A small silence bloomed between them, not empty, but full. The sound of rain softened. Their reflections shimmered faintly on the darkened window side by side, blurred but close. Hours passed unnoticed. They talked about everything they'd avoided. Her brother, his father, the way ambition eats people from the inside. He told her about the night his father died, a man who taught him that love was weakness and control was survival. She told him about the guilt she carried for leaving home the night her brother was killed. There were no tears, no grand gestures. Just the quiet unraveling of two people learning how to be honest again. At some point, she laughed, the first real laugh he'd heard from her. "What?" he asked, smiling despite himself. "You," she said. "You're not nearly as scary without your suit." He chuckled. "And you're not nearly as angry when you're not fighting the world." Her smile faded, softening. "That's the only way I know how to survive." "Maybe surviving isn't enough anymore," he said gently. Their eyes met again, and for a moment, the world outside vanished, the storm, the noise. There was only the warmth of proximity and the unbearable awareness of being seen. She reached for the folder in front of him, their fingers brushing. The touch was nothing accidental, and yet it cracked something open. Neither spoke. The rain outside deepened into rhythm, steady and intimate. Maya withdrew her hand, breath caught between guilt and want. "This doesn't change anything," she said finally. "No," he replied. "It just makes everything harder." Later, she walked him to the edge of the site. The sky was clear for the first time in days, the moon floating low over the river. "You did good work today," she said. "So did you. Don't let it end here." He nodded. "I won't." As she turned to leave, he stopped her. "Maya." She looked back. "Your brother Caleb. I've been going through our archives. I found the original safety audit. It wasn't just oversight. It was covered up." Her breath caught. "Covered up?" "Yes. And I can prove it. But if I bring this out, it'll destroy my company." "Then do it," she said. "If you mean what you've said, do it." He nodded slowly. "I will." Their eyes lingered one last time before she walked away, her silhouette fading into the pale light. Cole stood alone by the river, wind stirring the torn banners of his empire. For the first time, he didn't see failure, he saw possibility. In the weeks that followed, they worked together in quiet coordination. Meetings blurred into late nights. Arguments softened into laughter. The space between them grew smaller, and in that shrinking distance, something tender began to live, fragile, dangerous, but undeniably real. For both of them, it felt like healing, the kind that comes after a long, long ache. But healing never lasts without consequence. And somewhere deep down, both of them knew, this peace was only the calm before the break. Thank you for watching till the end. I'm sure you enjoyed it. We've got plenty more amazing and captivating stories waiting for you. Just click on the video showing on your screen to enjoy the next one.